Good afternoon. This is the Board of County Commissioners meeting. It is Tuesday, April 4th, 2023. It is 2:03 p.m. I'm Carolina Mejia. I'm the chair of the board. Vice Chair Ty Menser is excused for today. To my left is Commissioner Gary Edwards. Also in the boardroom, we have Clerk of the Board, Jamie Caldwell, as well as Assistant County Manager, Robin Campbell. We'll start our meeting today with the Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Commissioner Edwards.
Please join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next is the approval of the Tuesday, April 4th, 2023 agenda.
Yes, I would move to approve the agenda for today, Tuesday, April 24th, 2023.
Since Vice Chair Menser is not here, I'll do the land acknowledgement. We would also like to start today with the land acknowledgement. We would like to acknowledge and thank the Indigenous Salish people whose elders and ancestors have lived on and cared for the land and waterways of this county since time immemorial, and who still inhabit the area today, specifically the Squaxin Island, Nisqually, and Chehalis people, our sovereign tribal partners. Truth and acknowledgement are critical to building mutual respect and connection across all barriers of heritage and difference. The purpose of this acknowledgement is to disrupt ongoing erasure of injustices done and to remember history as a stepping stone towards healing. Oh, we didn't vote on it. So we'll go ahead and go back to the approval of the Tuesday, April 4th agenda. And I believe Commissioner Edwards, did you make a motion?
I did.
I'll second it and I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Edwards?
Aye.
Commissioner Menser is excused. Commissioner Mejia?
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, so today we have one presentation and it's National Public Health Week proclamation. And who's going to be presenting today?
Hi, good morning. I'm David Bain, the Director for Public Health here in Thurston County. I don't have a formal presentation, but just really wanted to take a minute to express my personal gratitude to my team. Some of my directors are here today, but also the public health staff across the county. It's been a really tough couple of years. Folks have gone through a lot, but we've shown what we could do at public health, and I'm really proud of this group. I want to express my gratitude to you all as commissioners for your support for our team. Over the last couple of years, we could not have done our work without your support, whether it was our morale or funding, and really appreciate that as well. I think we've got a really bright future ahead in public health here in Thurston County, and appreciate this time to talk to you. Thanks.
Thank you. Any of the staff would like to say something? Not to put you on the spot or anything.
Hi, Gretchen Thaler. I'm Division Director for Community Wellness, and I would just like to thank the commissioners and our county managers as well for the support that public health has received. And just, I guess, speak to a little bit of the importance of the prevention of public health. So often, I think our healthcare system is bogged down by, health concerns and illness, and one of the primary goals of public health is to do that prevention side of health. And sometimes that gets lost and it's not as visible, but it's truly important in making a difference for the health of our communities. That's it.
Commissioner Edwards?
Well, it looks like Art was going to get up and say something. And I wouldn't want to have the senior employee over there miss out on being able to say something. Because The only one that I know that's been around as long as he has is myself, so.
As we're kind of an endangered species. I think Bonnie Peterson also qualifies. She's actually been in public health longer than I have. But I couldn't let Gretchen go without me saying something if she was going to do stuff. But I do, in the past few years, as our director indicated, it has been pretty tough sledding for the folks in public health. And I do really want to thank our staff and everybody who supported them. And I also want to repeat some of what Gretchen said as far as prevention. A lot of the work that we do in environmental health is working on preventing illnesses and disease and transmission of illnesses that can be related with toxic materials and things like that. And it all gets most of it gets translated into regulation. So people think of us as kind of these regulating, I'll use Commissioner Edwards' term, bureaucrats. But in fact, all that stuff is well founded in public health. And so it's a tough job that our staff have in many circumstances, and so I really do want to acknowledge all their hard work. They've also been involved with COVID and other things in the past several years, so I do really want to acknowledge their hard work and my appreciation for them, and my appreciation for our policymakers and others too for helping give us the tools and the tools as far as resources and some of the policies and things that help us do our job. So thank you very much for that, and I'll sit down now.
Thank you, Art.
Commissioner Edwards?
So it's, I get to do this proclamation, and we've got a theme of centering and celebrating cultures in health, and I think we represent that up here. And so this is National Public Health Week, and whereas the week of April 3rd, 2023 is National Public Health Week, and this year's theme is centering and celebrating cultures and health. And whereas public health professionals help communities prevent, prepare for, withstand, and recover from the impact of a full range of health threats, including disease outbreaks such as the COVID-19 pandemic, measles, natural disasters, and disasters caused by human activity. And whereas public health action, together with scientific and technological advances, has played a major role in reducing and in some cases eliminating the spread of infectious disease, and in establishing today's disease surveillance and control systems. And whereas risk factors such as poverty, adverse childhood experiences, chronic stress, physical inactivity, poor nutrition, tobacco use, and excessive alcohol use are leading causes of chronic disease. And 6 in 10 U.S. adults have a chronic disease, and 4 in 10 have 2 or more. And chronic diseases cause 7 of every 10 deaths annually in the United States. And whereas the COVID-19 pandemic has illuminated and exacerbated racial inequities, and a growing number of local and state governments and public health leaders have declared racism a public health crisis. Now therefore be it resolved, the Board of County Commissioners hereby proclaims the week of April 3rd National Public Health Week in Thurston County, and urge all citizens to observe this week by helping our families, friends, neighbors, co-workers, and leaders to better understand the value of public health and supporting the great opportunities to adopt the preventive lifestyle habits, considering this year's theme, centering and celebrating cultures in health. Signed by your Board of County Commissioners this 4th day of April 2023. Thank you. So I don't know who gets to come up here and take a picture. Are we doing that? Hey, Art, you gotta be on one side and I gotta be on the other. The old guys on the end are corralling everybody, okay? And our new director ought to be somewhere in the middle.
I'm behind. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Are we given the proclamation or do we wait for Commissioner?
Yeah, we ought to do that, huh?
Do we wait for
Commissioner Munster.
Well, Commissioner Menser hasn't signed, and I know he wants to sign it. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. That will conclude our presentation for today. Next is an opportunity for the public to address the board. The Board of Thurston County Commissioners welcomes comments from the public. However, there are some guidelines governing such comments to ensure they are appropriate and do not take advantage of the fact that most meetings are televised. The general speaking guidelines are as follows. Please introduce yourself, including the address you reside in the county. Please address the board, not the audience or staff. Please silence your cell phones for those members in the boardroom. Speakers are limited to a total of 4 minutes to address the board. Meeting attendees cannot donate their speaking time to another person. No comments that are lewd and offensive, inflammatory, hateful, defamatory, or discriminatory in nature. Please be respectful. No outbursts of any kind. No comments that are commercial in nature, such as promotion of a for-profit business. All materials provided to the county may be considered public records, subject to public release upon request, pursuant to the Public Records Act, Chapter 4256 of the RCW. And no remarks about pending land use permits or similar matters that could eventually come before the board and appeal. Thank you so much for your cooperation. I do not have anyone signed up on my sheet here. Is there anyone in the boardroom that would like to provide testimony? Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is John Pettit. I live in East Olympia, over just south here, and it's beautiful. It was beautiful today, sunshine. I was gone last week, went to California, enjoyed spending time with family, my son and wife's still gone to China. But what I wanted to bring up and talk about, because I, of course, have great concerns about some of the financial accounts of Thurston County. One I seem to usually give the most emphasis on is REIT 1, which is an account that is put money into by property sales from people from the unincorporated portion of the county. Over the last year, approximately, there's been $10 million spent out of that account on this facility, and I would once again reiterate, that'll be subject to an audit, which is going to be looking at whether there was proper appropriations or not, and certainly whether or not there was any type of proper procurement policy and bidding process, which I know that there wasn't. But I have other further concerns. REIT is obviously going downhill right now because real estate sales are going downhill. And, you know, there's a type of an interactive program on the county website which you can access certain information, but it doesn't have a basic element to it, which is a actual existing, what I'll call the checkbook balance listed in it. How much is in the account right now? And one of the reasons that concerns me is because from when I was taking a look at the numbers and doing what crunching I could, it concerns me very much as to whether or not we're going to be able to meet your obligations you've set for REIT 1 due on June 30th of this year. You have $5.7 million that need to be paid out. So I'd kind of like to know what the actual balance is now, whether the county's going to default on their loan that they made for the Mottman complex. I would like to know what the current flow is. Are we at about a $3 million level of income coming in this year, $4 million level? How much income's coming in? And then also, how much money is expected to go out by a bond that was issued that has a interest balance against it all the time? Now, while I'm happy to and understand that I can wait, I think these numbers need to be very open and very public because, as you can look here, there really isn't any people of the public here that's interested because they don't know anything to be interested about. So your person who's been oversight of the budget and everything, she may have answers whether or not that debt was already paid or whether it's due, or she might know a balance. I'd be happy to hear it if it's available to be told to us now. And because there's other projects that REIT are called to be doing work with, and I'm not sure that we have any money left there. And I think it's time for the public to know right where we stand exactly, just like a checkbook you'd have at home. This much is in the account, this is what's coming in, this is what's going out, and are we going to end up overspending that account? Or are we just going to kind of cover it all up and pretend it doesn't be a problem? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the boardroom? Okay, we'll move on to Zoom, and I only see one person, and that is Loretta. Loretta. Okay, go ahead. You have 4 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, commissioners. I want to speak with you. I'm Loretta Sepinen. I live in the city of Olympia. Next week, you're going to have your second briefing on the scope of work for the comprehensive plan periodic update. And today I want to ask you to add 2 elements to that scope of work and check the language on one other item to see if it's sufficient. The current draft scope of work does not include a check about our vision statements, our value statements. I ask you to add that task to the review of the vision to the scope of work. Right now, the vision statements, they're really 7 value statements. They're in chapter 1 of the comprehensive plan. And I summarize them this way. We value varied and accessible services, activities, and lifestyle options. That means rural and urban kind of living. Economic health is central to the county's planning. The public needs to be involved in decision-making. And the county has stewardship roles related to natural resources and the management of growth. Here's what I'd like you to think about as you consider adding values, is could we add a value about equity? Do all people benefit from living here in this community? Could we add a value about recognizing that land and the natural resources have inherent values themselves that go way beyond just us residents enjoying this area or any financial benefit that would come to the county funds? And a third one to consider adding is an acknowledgement of our continual effort to move to government relationships with the Nisqually, Chehalis, and Squaxin Island tribes. I'd ask you to add that to your review, add that to the scope of work when you meet next week. The second thing to add to the scope of work in my mind would be to have some kind of mid-cycle review. By that I mean, right now, some kind of review of what the scope was like as we go through it, because it's hard for us to know everything that we might need in that scope of work right here, not right now, by the time you vote on it in May. I understand that the staff is rightly concerned that they want a firm scope of work so they can contract with the consultants. But this is a 2.5-year project, and it's going to set the stage for the next whole decade for us and beyond. So I urge you to ask the staff to consider phasing their consulting contracts so they don't have to set everything right now, and their own work, phase their own work plans. And so that you can consider revising and adding to the scope of work or changing the scope of work a year from now or sometime like that. And then also the last thing, perhaps you've noticed that the scope of work that you received on March 1st, when you first heard about this, did not include anything about agriculture, about farmland preservation or supporting farmers. I understand from the county staff that they emailed me recently and said that they're going to add that language to the version of the scope of work that you're going to get on April 12th for the briefing. And I ask you to carefully review that new language to assure that it really represents what you and
Thank you.
community members are calling
Ms.
for.
Sevanen, your
I-
time is up.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate this opportunity to speak to you.
Thank you. And you're also welcome to email in your comments to the commissioners, and if there was more that you needed to let us know. Thank you. I'm not seeing anyone else. So, ready? Okay, so with that, we'll move on to county manager's update.
Thank you, Commissioner. I have no update at this time.
Thank you. Any questions from the commissioners?
No, ma'am.
Okay. With that, we have 2 items on the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
Yes, I would move to approve the consent agenda, items A and B.
I'll second that motion. It's been moved and seconded. This is a non-debatable motion, so I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Edwards?
Aye.
Commissioner Mentzer's excused. Commissioner Mejia?
Aye. Moving on to department items. First item from Central Services, item 4A, voter registration design contract.
So I'll take that since Jason is off today. Robin Campbell, Assistant County Manager. And this afternoon, Commissioners, we are requesting your approval to contract for the design of the remodel of one of our buildings at the Mottman Complex. The county purchased the Mottman Complex, a group of 3 buildings, in 2021. And one of the planned uses of that complex for one of our buildings is to house an improved voter registration center. We are requesting this afternoon that the board authorize an amendment to our A&E, or Architect and Engineering on-call contract. The contract is amended for each work order that we provide. Thank you. And this would be an amendment for a contract with Thomas Architecture Studios to design the work to create the improved voter registration center, as you discussed it with Auditor Hall this morning. The amount of the contract would be $221,201, and this motion would authorize me to approve any amendments that don't exceed 10%. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. So with that, are there any questions, Commissioner Edwards?
I don't know if I have questions as much as Auditor Hall made it apparent that she's trying to prioritize funding to give us at the county level the best bang for the buck, if you will, to solve problems having to do with the whole upcoming voting process in 2024. And if folks are interested in more information on this topic and why, well, we're actually doing this move, because we can't do it all. And so we're prioritizing. And if you want to have more information on this, our meeting this morning for agenda setting has more of an explanation on that.
Yes.
And thank you, that's all I have.
No, that's really good. I think just to add on what you mentioned, Commissioner Edwards, one of the reasons to be doing this design is
the effect that that particular voter registration has had to move. And they would have to move to another location before coming to this, and it would be confusing to voters to have to go from one location to the next and not knowing where their voter registration center is. And this would help provide us getting them to their long-term home in a faster way. And so, you know, seeing kind of what this design and kind of the, you know, we have a particular funding set aside, and we did talk about it at length this morning at agenda setting, and Auditor Hull gave her perspective, like Commissioner Edwards said. Okay, I'm ready for a motion, sir, if you are.
I would move to approve Amendment 18 to contract number 025-201A-660-1040-018 with Thomas Architectural Studios. And it shall not exceed the amount of $221,201 plus tax, and authorize the Assistant County Manager to execute the amendment and any future amendments that do not exceed 10%.
I'll second the motion. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
No, ma'am.
I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Edwards?
Aye.
Commissioner Mentzer's excused. Commissioner Mejia?
Aye. Okay, motion passes. Moving on to Community Planning and Economic Development. Item 5A is to set a public hearing for open space tax program update, farm and agricultural conservation lands eligibility criteria, CPA 16. And I see Ashley Rye, our Agricultural Community Program Manager via Zoom. Go ahead, Ashley.
Good afternoon. Just for the record, again, Ashley Rye, Agriculture Community Program Manager. I am here today to set the public hearing on updates to the Open Space Tax Program for farm and agricultural conservation lands eligibility criteria for May 2nd, 2023 at 3:30 p.m. This Open Space Tax Program is a tax incentive program run by the Board of County Commissioners that allows agricultural properties, including those that no longer qualify for the assessor's current use tax program, to qualify for property tax reductions. This proposal is included under CPA 16, and that's the community-driven review of agricultural policies and programs. It also supports County Strategic Initiative number 7. The Agriculture Advisory Committee did hold 5 work sessions on this item between July of 2021 to January of 2022 to develop the recommendation. The board was briefed on March 15th of this year, at which time staff was directed to bring forward this request to set a public hearing. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions?
No, ma'am.
No, none from me, and I'm ready for a motion if you are, sir.
I would move to set a public hearing on updates to the open space program for farm and agricultural conservation lands eligibility criteria. And that's CPA number 16. For May 2nd, 2023 at 3:30 p.m. or as soon thereafter, as the matter may be heard in room 110 at this location at 3000 Pacific Avenue Southeast.
I'll second the motion. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
No, ma'am.
I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Edwards?
Aye.
Commissioner Mentzer's excused. Commissioner Mejia?
Aye. Okay, motion passes. Moving on to emergency services. Item 6A, execute sole source contract with the National Fire Protection Association for assessing structure ignition potential from wildfire training. And Ben Miller-Todd, our emergency services director, will present this item.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Ben Miller-Todd, Emergency Services Director. As the region continues on a trajectory of warmer, drier summers, Western Washington is in need of mitigating fire hazards within our communities. A component of building this resiliency in our community is through preparatory trainings provided to our residents. We encourage all of our communities to be fire-wise communities and take action in preparing and protecting their homes and businesses against the threat of wildfire. This course helps teach how to create defensible spaces around homes, neighborhoods, and businesses against wildfire. The training will be funded with a FEMA hazard mitigation grant through the Washington State Military Department Emergency Management Division. The grant was approved by the Board of County Commissioners on June 14th, 2022, and is currently in the 2023 budget. The contract with the National Fire Protection Association will provide 6 two-day assessing structural ignition potential for wildfire train the trainer courses to the Thurston region. The term of the contract shall begin on the date executed and terminate on April 30th, 2024. Thurston County EM will be partnering with West Thurston Regional Fire Authority, Thurston Conservation District, and Washington State Department of Natural Resources to host most of the Train the Trainer courses that are made up of a mixture of classroom training and practical application of the knowledge learned from the course. With that, we are requesting your approval of the sole source contract with the National Fire Protection Association for assessing structural ignition potential from wildfire training and authorize the Director of Emergency Services to execute the contract in the amount of $60,970, and any amendments that do not exceed 10%. Please let me know if you have any further questions, and I appreciate your consideration of this action.
Thank you. Any questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No, ma'am. We've had a lot of discussion, most recently this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, no questions for me. I'm ready for a motion.
I would move to approve the sole source contract with the National Fire Protection Association for assessing structure ignition potential from wildfire training and authorize the Director of Emergency Services to execute the contract in the amount of $60,970 and any amendments that do not exceed 10%.
I'll second. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Edwards?
Aye.
Commissioner Mentor is excused. Commissioner Mejia?
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, information technology, item 7A, annual voice infrastructure maintenance renewal, TriTech 2023.
So I will cover this one as well. I'm not as familiar with this contract as I am the design contract. However, I do know that this is a maintenance contract that supports the county's telephone system. The county purchased equipment and software. Sorry about the feedback. Equipment and software that supports communication throughout the county. And we need a maintenance contract to continue with to enable the appropriate use of our phone system. So we are requesting that the county approve a 5-year contract for maintenance with planned increases not to exceed 10% per year for the next 5 years. And I could certainly try to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Commissioner Edwards, any questions?
No questions on this topic, ma'am.
Thank you. No questions for me as well. I'm ready for a motion if you are, sir.
I would move to approve the annual TriTech Communications Maintenance Contract in the amount of $49,377 and authorize the interim information technology director to execute the contract and any amendments that do not exceed 10% per year for up to 5 years.
I'll second. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
No, ma'am.
I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Edwards?
Aye.
Commissioner Mentor is excused. Commissioner Mejia?
Aye. Moving on, these next two items got added on this morning after our, oh no, just kidding. The next item was not. But item 8B and C that Tom will be covering got added this morning to the agenda, and after discussion with Commissioner Edwards, and the time-sensitive nature of the item 8B and C, we decided to add them today. So that's the only difference on our agenda for today, and just letting the public know. But we'll go ahead and not skipping over you, Lanice. I almost did. Item 8A, contract with Catholic Community Services Southwest, Emergency Shelter Services for Veterans, and Lanice Milan, Quality Assurance Community Program Manager, will report on this item. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Lanice Milam. I'm the Quality Assurance and Veterans Program Manager for Thurston County. We are requesting to move to approve the contract with Catholic Community Services in the amount of $49,275 for the period of January 1st, 2023 through December 31st of 2023 to provide shelter services, including shelter stays for homeless veterans at the Drexel House Emergency Shelter. If there are any questions, I would be happy to answer.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
My only question would be, so far, up until the end of 2022, we've dedicated money for this purpose, but as a general rule, it's not been completely spent out, but it's there just in case. Is that right?
Correct, sir.
Okay. And we're doing the same thing again for 2023. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Just as a follow-up to Commissioner Edwards' question, how do we land on that figure of 49,275?
I will have to lead to Mark Moffitt with information on that. That kind of predates me.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Mark Moffitt, Social Services Program Manager for Thurston County. So that number is based on Catholic Community Services equation. So they charge $45 a night at 3-bed nights. So 45 times 3 times 365 comes up with that 49 and some change.
Okay.
And I will say their actual costs per bed night are about $49, but they do reduce the rate for us.
To 45. Okay.
I like to think it's because we're doing a good job in taking care of our veterans, and they don't always need every night.
I will agree with that.
Okay.
Well, okay. Thank you for that clarification. Commissioner Edwards, are you ready, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. I'd move to approve the contract with Catholic Community Services Southwest in the amount of $49,275 for the period January 1st, 2023 through December 31st, 2023 to provide shelter services, including shelter stays for homeless veterans and their families at the Drexel House Emergency Shelter, and authorize the Director of Public Health and Social Services to sign the contract and amendments that do not exceed 10%.
I'll go ahead and second. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
No, ma'am.
I'll call for a vote.
Commissioner Edwards?
Aye.
Commissioner Mentzer's excused. Commissioner Mejia?
Aye. Okay, and so, thank you. Moving on to item 8B, which is approve the rent assistance contract amendment with Washington State Department of Commerce. And Tom Webster, our Senior Program Manager, will report on this item.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you. Tom Webster, Senior Program Manager with the Office of Housing and Homeless Prevention. So thank you for moving this item up onto your agenda for today. Here to ask for your authorization to add $1.5 million to our existing contract with the Department of Commerce on the Treasury Rent Assistance Program number 2. This would bring the total contract value to $13,509,351. I do want to note that this morning when we discussed this item, we added the amendment. This is Amendment A to this contract. Since I went back and looked, since late 2020, we have had 8 different contracts with rent assistance dollars, and some of those contracts have been amended. This includes ERAP money, TRAP 1, TRAP 2 money directly from the Treasury. So this is the first amendment with the Department of Commerce under this source of money. However, we have had amendments under other sources of rent assistance money. So we're here to ask your approval to add this additional money. This is money that's coming from the state from other communities that were unable to expend these funds. We have until June 30th to spend these funds, which is why there was some urgency to move that up to today's agenda. So we appreciate you doing so and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
And we do have a waiting list for folks that are in need of help.
Yes, so we have, we've had people contacting us, and so we do have a waiting list that we'll be reaching out to let them know that money is now available that they can apply for.
Thank you.
Thank you. And with that waiting list that we have, I mean, that won't even be close to covering that need.
Yeah, so at this point, we also have an ongoing, it's called an eviction prevention rent assistance program, which is through some permanent funding from the state, which is much smaller amount of money. And so they've been having, we talked to our contractor who has at least 150 people on their waiting list already for that program. So we'll be able to direct those folks to apply for this source of money. If necessary, we will open up to the public, but we're going to work through that waiting list first to make sure those folks are served.
Thank you. And take a moment to thank the Department of Commerce for that additional $1.5 million funding for rent assistance. And we'll be covering who's going to be distributing those funds in the next item. But there's no more questions or comments. I am ready for a motion, sir.
Okay. I would move to approve Contract Amendment A to the Washington State Department of Commerce Treasury Rent Assistance Program 2 to add $1,500,000 for a total contract value of $13,509,351 and authorize the Director of Public Health and Social Services to sign the contract amendment and any future amendments that do not change the amount or duration by more than 10%.
I'll second. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
No, ma'am.
I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Edwards?
Aye.
Commissioner Mentor is excused. Commissioner Mejia?
Aye. Okay, and then as the second piece to item B, item C is the approve a rent assistance contract amendment with Giaco? Giaco. Okay, Tom, back to you.
Thank you, Commissioner. So following up on that item, we would like to contract that $1.5 million that we received from the Department of Treasury with our current contractor, which is Giaco Inc., also known as Live Stories, to administer those programs. So we're asking to amend the contract with Giaco to add up to $1,500,000 for a maximum total contract value of $8,591,850. And once again, these funds must be spent by June 30th of this year.
Thank you. Any questions?
No questions this time.
Okay, no questions for me. I'm ready for a motion.
I would move to approve Contract Amendment 5 to the Giaco Inc. doing business as Live Stories under the Treasury Rent Assistance Program. Program 2, to add up to $1,500,000 for a maximum total contract value of $8,591,850 and authorize the Director of Public Health and Social Services to sign the contract amendment and any future amendments that do not change the amount or duration by more than 10%.
I'll second that motion. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
No, ma'am.
I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Edwards?
Aye.
Commissioner Mentor is excused. Commissioner Mejia?
Aye. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And our last department item from Public Works, item 9A, resolution and call for sealed bids for furnishing and supply of various asphalt materials. Mike Lohman, our road operations manager.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Mike Lohman, Road Operations Manager. This call for sealed bids is to furnish Thurston County Public Works with the supply of various kinds of asphalt and road maintenance materials for annual road maintenance work. On a yearly basis, the Road Operations Division requires different asphalt materials to perform road maintenance activities. The actual amount of the material fluctuates during the year, and the purpose of this bid process is to secure the best unit cost for each material. This maintenance work supports Initiative 8 of the county's strategic plan to support robust and well-maintained infrastructure systems for a thriving community, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions? Commissioner Edwards.
No, but time is of the essence to get this order in, so.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And you mentioned this morning that prices were going up.
Prices are going up
for
pretty
materials
fast
again,
right now.
Okay. Yeah, time is of the essence. Okay, I'm ready for a motion, sir.
I would move to approve the resolution and call for sealed bids for furnishing a supply of various kinds of asphalt and road maintenance materials to the Public Works Department for annual road maintenance activities.
I'll second. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
No, ma'am.
I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Edwards?
Aye.
Commissioner Mentor is excused. Commissioner Mejia?
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
That will conclude our department items. Moving on to our standing items. Items 10A, Commissioners will report on board work sessions and assigned committee meetings, providing updates on actions taken as well as upcoming issues. Commissioner Edwards, we'll start with you, sir.
Last week, I spent most of my time at the Washington County's risk pool meeting in Tacoma, going over rates and why. And it's not a very pleasant picture doing business in the state of Washington. Because if we're 1% at fault and the other party that's 99% at fault has nothing, no insurance or no resources, then the county ends up paying the bill. And the legislature should be doing something about this because it's really not a very fair system when you think about it. And we're one of the few states in the nation that do business that way. So a lot of time went in there. Constituent contacts regarding the HCP and other land issues and how we're progressing on dealing with those. And I might mention Patterson Lake unless you were going to make mention of this. The cleanup.
Yeah. Go ahead.
They did a cleanup this last month and they removed 14 tons of trash. And I think they're to be commended for that community getting together and doing some great work out on Patterson Lake. So just want to tell them thank you very much. So that'd do it for me.
Thank you. I want to go back to the risk part. Thank you again for representing us on that and for taking the time to attend. I know it was a couple of days that you had to be in that conference, but I just wanted to kind of give, residents just the shock that we received at the end of last year when that number came through and having to pay that $1.9 million and our
Extra.
additionally, than what we already pay was definitely a sticker shock and very frustrating because it's something that, we have no option but to pay. And just the price range that came through, I mean, it's astronomical. 1.9 additional dollars going into just that risk.
Ma'am, could I follow up
Yeah.
on that as well? And I had the opportunity to discuss with other county jurisdictions up there, those that had felt the sticker shock in the past and for one reason or another thought, well, they'd go out and take a look what is available if they were not in the risk pool. And there was only one that actually decided they would try and make a run at it without the risk pool, because you have to have some pretty deep pockets if you have a problem. It's, and the rest all decided that no. I think Clark County decided to try it without. Spokane County and others reviewed it, said they didn't think it would pencil out properly. And I think the best thing I can use as an explanation, we all carry insurance on our home or on our vehicle, that type of thing. And we hope that we never need it, but we just never know. And if you don't have it and you need it, it pretty much breaks the bank almost every time. So just a challenge that your local governments are faced with, and really the state could do so much to alleviate this problem if they weren't being pushed by other interests to do other things. And I'll be polite about it, so I'm just gonna let it go at that. So it's a bummer.
It is. I'll report on my items. I attended the Thurston Thrives breakfast. We touched on the fentanyl use, and we also touched on new data that they presented, and it was just really good data to have. I attended, well, I didn't attend. I think Commissioner Edwards saw me doing my makeup on the hallway, but we, that was for the Washington State Association of Counties. They were coming over to film me. Basically, they were gonna do kind of a day in a life of a county commissioner, and just kind of like a little segment on what it's like to be a county commissioner and what the job entails. And so it was a really short segment that they invited me to do, and I was very excited to be a part of that. I attended the intercity transit retirement for Ann Manzanares, and just as an FYI, all the operations staff is fully moved in already to the building right behind the atrium. So the building is in full capacity, so we're gonna start seeing a little bit more traffic in this area as the staff is fully there now. But I also, I had a chance to meet with the interim director, Emily Bergkamp, for Intercity Transit, and we had a really good conversation about Narcan and whether they would be interested if their staff was trained with Narcan. We had this segment about how intercity transit, right, like the operators are everyday heroes, and just the amazing things they've done, and the awards that they've received because of some of the heroic stuff they've done. And so we talked about, well, is this something that, you know, I know we're trying to get the word out about Narcan use and get as many people trained on it as this fentanyl use spreads through our communities. And so that's, I know that Pierce County Transit has some policies in place, and they're working on seeing if that's something that they could implement as well. And I told them that definitely they could count on us as partners if that's a route that they want to go. And I let them know that we do offer trainings for that. And so more to come on that. But let's see, I attended the Legislative Steering Committee for the Washington State Association of Counties. Just basically a quick overview on kind of what's probably things from then to now have changed dramatically from what was presented on Thursday to what, but just things are quickly moving. And I know that they were seeking people to go testify for the rural tax bill that we don't qualify for, so did not volunteer for that one. I attended the Local Good Governance Coalition. They had a forum in terms of the comprehensive plan
They invited me as well as the city of Tumwater, city of Lacey, and the city of Olympia to talk about, just the comprehensive plan, let them know that the board hadn't really talked about scoping yet, that we were really just in the beginning stages of getting the word out about the comprehensive plan and seeing kind of what the interest the community had. But one of the major themes I found was affordable housing, and the questions related to affordable housing. So probably going to be a big theme as we move forward and the comprehensive plan. Let's see. I attended the Family Education FES. I forgot the two S's stand for. The Fed Seat of Hope event. They had a luncheon and just great to hear. I believe this, the program that they were presenting on is one of the programs that's funded through treatment sales tax. And just hearing of the stories of people who have been impacted and hearing those firsthand stories on how those specific classes and getting that support really has impacted, and just seeing kind of how, that specific program has just led to the recovery of parents and being able to kind of, this particular person, was able to get her kids back and go back through school after being addicted for many years. And now she's 7 years sober. So it was just really inspiring to hear her story. And we also put out some pinwheels out here on the street on Pacific. And as I was driving by yesterday, I realized they were all gone. So still trying to figure out who took them away, but probably get some more. But I was sad to see that. But that will conclude my report for the week. With that, the county manager or the assistant county manager will now review the Board of the County Commissioners schedule for the week of April 4th.
Thank you, Commissioner. This report is for items that are on the calendar of 2 or 3 commissioners. You may have other items on your individual calendars. After the board meeting today, there are no meetings on the shared schedule for the rest of this week. And then on Monday, April 10th at noon, the master calendar has a Washington State Association of Counties meeting. It's a virtual meeting from noon to 1 on Monday, April 10th. That is the only item on your shared calendar until next Tuesday morning's 9 a.m. agenda setting.
Thank you. Okay. Gosh, it is 3 p.m. We are adjourned. Thank you.